Believe it or not, I'm actually a different person than Tommy, the other white guy with a gray shirt and tan pants that was on stage. I had a good laugh out of that. Well, thanks for the community and the conference for inviting me to speak. It's my first time in Turkey. It's been an incredible experience so far. If you're looking for a talk that talks about meme coins, gambling, speculation, degeneracy, you're in exactly the right place. So this is a thesis on consumer crypto. It's actually a talk that it's really years in the making. I'm a general partner at Six Man Ventures. We're an early stage crypto fund that invests primarily at the application layer. We're known for investing in some of the most substantial Solana consumer projects to date. And so people ask us, what's our view on consumer? And we always articulate and vocalize it, but we've never codified it. And so this presentation is the first attempt at codifying a portion of our thesis on consumer crypto. So I'm sure many of you have heard this framing. Is the blockchain primarily being used as a computer or for a casino? It was popularized in particular by Chris Dixon at his book, Read, Write, Own, which is a great book. I highly recommend it. And it really paints two pictures of what crypto could be. One is the world computer, where all sorts of data can be stored in a global permissionless blockchain that can be read by disparate groups of people globally. An example of this might be an identity platform where your name can be viewed and shared across many different types of applications. It might include some of the, let's say, social platforms that we see like Farcaster, where likes and your connections, basically you own that and can take that anywhere you want to any platform. So really using the backend to store any type of data, that's the computer vision. The casino vision, I think, is much more clear to many people, and that's using crypto as the perfect financialization ledger to actually create these hyper-specialized projects that we see today. And I think to no one's surprise, the casino is winning in crypto. And of course, we see this across many different types of projects, especially those on Solana. So I think STEPN, who was here for early STEPN? Show of hands. Oh, more than that. I hope we have more OGs than that in the room. STEPN was an incredible gaming platform where you could buy shoes, walk, and then use your earnings to buy more shoes. And it created this massive on-chain economy, at one point being both the largest NFT marketplace and the largest DEX simultaneously across Solana. Pump.fun needs no introduction, the leading meme coin launchpad and creator platform. And of course, things like Jupiter and Hyperliquid that really took perpetuals to the next level in terms of your ability to wager and the number of assets that were listed. So the first main point here on why is the casino winning, it's because this has been going on for decades. So looking first back at sports, our parents' generation, they would go to a sports game, they might read the local paper about the team, but betting was really frowned upon in sports. If you were betting, you either needed to go to Vegas or Atlantic City to some sports book and sit at a bar and watch the game, or you had somebody that drove up to your house and you gave them a wad of cash to go make bets and they did it on the gray market. But we've seen through the introduction of FanDuel, DraftKings, that now sports is becoming hyper-financialized. And in fact, our generation now not only bets on the game, but they now have increasing level of wagers, such as parlays, where you put a series of bets together, even live betting during the game, what's going to happen in the next 5 minutes. So all this speculation has been happening to sports over many years, and the interesting thing about that is it actually creates more engaged users. My friends are way more into sports than the parents' generation because simply we have all these different venues to garner attention and earn an economic outcome. Gaming is another clear example. Gone are the days where you'd buy a $50 cartridge, blow on it, and then plug it into your N64, and hopefully that it worked. Now, every game has some marketplace financialization element associated with it. Trading, Robinhood really took this as well into a new direction, where previously equities were about long-term ownership and building wealth over decades, while now Robinhood introduced day options and day trading as a new type of way for users to speculate, and it's produced phenoms like GameStop. Of course, culture, this is really where crypto started to become mainstream in this process. Everything from NFTs to meme coins, and even new social platforms like Kizzy that allow you to bet and wager on your favorite YouTube or X creators. And lastly, polymarket in the form of politics. So what we see here is that across every single facet of our lives, financialization is occurring. And the key insight here is that blockchain basically becomes a hyper accelerant on that. And why does that happen? Well, there's two primitives that blockchains and just crypto more broadly introduce. One is the token itself. Tokens, of course, are the best bootstrapping instrument that we've ever seen. In particular, it offers the ability to create something out of nothing in terms of new asset creation. You know, in the physical world, you can't just create something from nothing, but in crypto, you can launch a token that accrues hundreds of millions of dollars of enterprise value virtually overnight. And that can allow new communities to come together and speculate in novel ways. You also, this is a really important thing a lot of people miss, have global distribution from day one. If you're building an app before, you would need to go work in a particular geography to get a set of payment partners on board and then slowly expand to new geographies. But with global permissionless ledgers on the blockchain, you now can get global distribution on day one of any new asset. On the blockchain side, another important point to consider is the ecosystem aspect. So there's all sorts of, my job is to invest in consumer crypto. So I'm always looking at Dune dashboards of every single new project that comes out. I can look at the churn of the users, how many people are engaged on it, what is the trading volume like. These are things you can't do apart from crypto. The fact that crypto is open and permissionless allows you to have this incredible ability to build ecosystem products on top of the underlying data. And those ecosystem products actually help funnel and drive attention back to the product itself. The last thing I'll point here is just trustworthiness. In order to speculate and wager before, I needed to go put my funds onto some product that might be based outside the US or they might not know about. But in blockchains, assets are securely held in your wallet, and then you only interact with applications most of the time for specific transactions. So the casino, as it's broadly called, uses these crypto primitives to hyper-financialize human behavior. Again, just extending something that's already been taking place. So the second main thing here is, people ask, what's your view on consumer crypto? And the way I always frame it is quite simply, users engage with a product to either get rich or get famous. And there's so many products out there today that if your product doesn't allow people to get rich or get famous, get famous, it's probably not going to succeed. And so what I tried to do here is actually bucket why crypto is so good at doing both of these things. So starting in the lower quadrant, we can see here utility products like Uber and Netflix. They're purely consumption oriented. I didn't take an Uber here to get rich. I took it because I needed to get from point A to point B. Similar to Netflix, where I just pay to watch content. I don't actually expect to derive wealth from the content that I watch. Moving up on the get famous side, we have all of our classic Web 2 social apps, Instagram, YouTube, Snap, etc. The key thing here is the currency of these apps is not money. It's likes and followers and connections and views. And so as part of that, most creators actually don't get rich from these platforms. In fact, the payouts, these platforms capture most of the value and only very few percentage points of it actually goes to the creators. But these creators use these platforms to get famous, and then they go make their money off platform through different types of advertisement deals, brand deals, speaking engagements, etc. Likewise, if you go towards the get fortune side of things, you can make a lot of money on Robinhood, DraftKings, but they're fundamentally not social products. You're not getting famous on DraftKings. There's very few social features built into it. But if you have a really good reputation, you might take your bets and wagers to X or some other social platform to go ahead and get that famous part, even if you're actually making money on the platform itself. The key insight here is that crypto enables both of these to happen perfectly in the same platform. So if I'm a content creator and I launch a coin and then I live stream, I'm both following users and driving my awareness, but also earning a financial return on the backside of that in the exact same platform. It's not disparate platforms. It's all taking place because the currency here is trading value and attention. And so you're just able to get both of these in one product. Similar to NFTs, I'll say CryptoPunks more as an example, but really a lot of these NFT collections, they were able to get famous and get tens of thousands of followers by being vocal about particular collections while also having the value of their assets going up in the process. So crypto brings these two elements together into one, and that's why whenever I'm looking at consumer products, I'm always asking myself, is it enabling users to get famous or to get rich? And if it's not doing either of those, it's probably not going to be a successful product. All right. So with that context, the next question is, all right, so you told me about users need to get famous, they need to get fortune together, blockchains help in that process. Where does the opportunity lie? Well, I think the first thing is I have a quite broad view of how crypto can influence the world. And in fact, there's a coin here, the Internet of Value is a term that some people use that really resonates with me. The unique thing about blockchains is that you actually have ultimate composability. Specifically, you have content, money, and identity all on the same ledger. So for example, I can post content and then immediately monetize that content with my identity all on the same blockchain. You can't do this in any other platform. It's only because of permissionless blockchain rails where you can enable this. So the first thing, if you're looking at a new consumer product in crypto, is money part of the product? Like, if you're not using money, why are you building it on chain? It's way harder to build on chain. So if money isn't part of your core product loop, you should probably just building a Web 2 product. It's just not worth the time and energy to actually build something that's crypto native. So if money is part of the core value loop, then marketplaces are the ultimate epitome of bringing people together to exchange value. In particular, if you look at Web 2 today, almost every successful product is a marketplace. Uber is a marketplace for drivers meeting riders. YouTube is a marketplace for creators connecting with viewers. And crypto basically makes these marketplaces much better. So if you're building a crypto product, I would encourage you thinking, how do I make this into a marketplace and monetize at different levels of the process on both the supply and the demand side? As an example, has anyone here heard of Baxis, the tokenized whiskey platform? A couple of y'all. It's a really, really cool platform. I recommend go checking it out. Well, basically, it allows me as a consumer to go browse, find spirits, and then immediately buy them on chain. And so why do I go to this platform? I go there for discovery, trading, and potentially custody of the underlying tokenized whiskey assets and storing them in a vault. Well, Baxis is able to make money in every single one of these areas. And likewise, they have suppliers from some of the most famous distilleries in the world coming to them saying, I want your engaged users. And so Baxis is making money on the distribution side, the actual issuance or minting of these bottles on chain. And then lastly, as these brands go to communicate with customers, there's an opportunity to monetize there. So rather than many business models in Web 2 that have one monetization scheme, which is mainly ads, crypto enables you to monetize throughout the entire stack in a really effective way. So thinking about marketplaces, here's a number. I just talked about collectibles. There's so many different types of marketplace ideas that crypto can help make radically better than if you were to build this in a Web 2 type construct. So again, think about, is it using money? How do I make my product into a marketplace? And then nextly, consider, am I attacking a problem with a unique insight? I look at thousands of deals a year, and what I see is a lot of teams either aren't attacking a specific problem, they're starting way too broad, or are attacking the right problem, but they don't have a unique insight. In particular, I see this today with new companies launching prediction markets, where there's dozens of companies in crypto launching prediction markets, but very few of them have a unique insight on how they're going to win customers and drive volume. And so here's a couple examples that really resonate with me, companies that are successful that identified a problem and then have a unique insight to drive it. Everyone here knows Instagram. Many of you may not know, Instagram actually started as a photo editing tool. At the time, mobile photos were starting to get popular. There's no way to edit them within the iPhone app experience. And so Instagram said, let's build a really good photo editor. But the insight they had was, once people come for the tool, do they stay for the network? How do I actually build a network by having this tool? And so that problem with that unique insight allowed them to become one of the most successful companies of all time. Magic Eden. I remember a world before Magic Eden. I know it's kind of hard to do so now in Solana, but there was one. It was things like Digitalize and another one, Solana, even Solana Art, yeah. But what they saw is that none of these were good products. And anyone who used them knows I'd try to click 5 times to buy something and the experience wasn't good. So the unique insight is we actually are a really good set of Web 2 builders that can come to Web 3 and build a radically better product that just works well. But the unique insight was the launchpad. It was, how do I actually make it radically easier for people to launch NFT collections? And then once a collection launches, the liquidity is concentrated on Magic Eden. It's very hard for that liquidity to migrate elsewhere because all the attention is there. So launchpad really helped to create this flywheel that didn't exist before. Maybe I'll just talk about Pump as the last example here. meme coins previously required a lot of money to build the initial liquidity, and they required developers to be involved. And so they kind of like really narrowed the role of meme coins to just like dog and cat pictures. Well, that was the problem they identified. The unique insight they had is that like everything should be tradable. I remember when I talked to the Pump team first, before we invested, they were like, why is it that every single restaurant, bar, content you interact with doesn't have a token behind it? So they just had a radically bigger view of meme coins beyond just a very narrow view that many people shared previously. So again, you have your money, you build a marketplace, a problem with unique insight. And then lastly is like build something that 100 people love. I think this is Brian Chesky, the CEO of Airbnb, that said this, but build something 100 people love, not something 1 million people kind of like. And I see this a lot with early consumer products in crypto. It's really important to get your core community and then from there use them to help expand. So a couple of things I've seen in how to do this effectively. One is you have to be provocative or controversial. I don't know if, Anatoly is still provocative and controversial, but like old school Toly even more so. And he was like reply guying every single Ethereum maxi post and just showing kind of the fallacies in their logic. I think Mert is another perfect example of this. We all love and behold Mert dearly. But if your product isn't controversial or provocative, is it actually going to stand out in the marketplace of ideas? The answer to that is probably not. So I think you have to lock in on these ideas and be pushing the boundaries. Otherwise, it's probably going to hard to be relevant. Secondly, is you have to get into the right influencer networks or the right communities. Alon from Pump.Fun DM'd thousands of people to try Pump.Fun in the early stages. I don't know many builders that go through those lengths to send thousands of DMs individually to people to try to get them onto a platform. So make sure you're reaching out to the right people, getting into the right networks to get those first 100 core users. And then lastly is become a content machine. This is not crypto related whatsoever, but I love cars. And Doug DeMuro, over the past 4 years, built this massive millions of followers on YouTube for his car reviews. And he used that to then create a marketplace, cards and bids, where people can actually buy and sell cars. But by creating authenticity and trust through his channel and getting that distribution to millions of users, this company in 2 years is now like one of the leading car auction websites because he has the content underlying that, and they work together, right? Like the content helped launch the marketplace, the cars on the marketplace help create new content, and you just get this really powerful flywheel going. So if you don't have a content machine and you're trying to stand out, I'd ask you why. Why don't you have a content machine? Maybe you should consider it. So just starting to wrap up here, skeptics think there's no opportunity in crypto. They think crypto's the casino only, that the casino's stupid, that it's bad for users. But every single cycle, they're proven wrong, and there's nothing that's going to change here. So wrapping up, I hope that was helpful for everyone here. We're a partnership of 5 people total, 4 general partners. We invest mainly at the application layer. We've invested in some of the most popular Solana projects out there throughout our 5 years in the Solana ecosystem. So feel free to reach out with us. Here's a way to directly connect with me on Twitter. I'd love to chat more about consumer crypto. Thanks for your time.